Wildlife in your garden speaks volumes about how good a gardener you are and how much you respect the environment that's around you, I think. And attracting birds and that kind of thing into your garden can do so much for your efforts in trying to grow herbs and vegetables and fruits and so on, because the birds will attack rodents and things like mice and rats and things like that. Things like kookaburras and owls and all those sort of things will get into it, especially things like snakes that we just don't want around our houses. Also pests like the caterpillars and so on. There's so many birds that will get into it. But unless you provide an environment for these birds to live in, then you're not really inviting them into your garden. So let's take a bit of a look at some of the things we can do to help attract those birds into your garden and what can happen. So let's have a look. I'm only in a rental place. I don't own this property at all, but there's a lot of things you can do, and this property was really quite neglected, I think, for probably the 10 or 20 or so years prior to me getting here. And when I first moved in, there was just a crazy amount of weeds and overgrown kind of stuff that had to be removed before I was going to really even get access to maybe a quarter or so of my garden space. But there's just so much you can do to help attract those birds in. One of these kind of bushy natives, I'm not actually sure what that is because I didn't put it there, but it does have a bit of a flower to it, and it provides a great sort of environment for birds like wrens to be able to sort of hide in, I suppose, whilst they're trying to find little bugs and that kind of stuff that they can get into. So that's one option for you, and you can sort of trim them back a bit and make it quite, attractive for those sort of birds, and that's going to help them to come in and sort of get into the pest control that you sort of need them to do. I wanted to increase my privacy in this sort of area, so I spent about $12 or $15 on an acacia, and it's grown really well. So that's now nearly 180 centimeters tall, and it's spreading out fairly well. And again, that's going to give sort of a really good environment for the birds to be able to roost in and perch on whilst they look for bugs and rodents and so on that they want to take a strike at. Another good option, obviously, is a birdhouse. So that'll help the birds sort of find your property. We're growing a number of these sort of bottle brush plants. Obviously that's going to attract in all kinds of different birds, which I think is great because the kids need to be exposed to these sort of birds to be able to give them a good appreciation of Australian wildlife. Some of these ground cover plants, this particular one is a roller coaster grevillea, and I've also got a dwarf bottle brush called a Little John, and these will do quite well in helping me restrict the amount of weeds that are growing, which unfortunately has been a bit of a challenge of mine this year. Palm trees are not a good idea. If it was my choice, I'd get rid of the whole lot. They unfortunately provide great little environments for rats and mice and other things, cockroaches particularly, and that makes life pretty hard. I've got some bigger bottle brushes here, and they're really good because there's a gang, I suppose, is a proper name for it, but a flock of kookaburras that come through this way most mornings, and they tend to roost up pretty high and use these trees to be able to spot out their breakfast, I suppose, which is great. But birds can bring so much to your garden. I realise that now and again they're going to pick away at your veggies and stuff, and I guess that's part of the game, but but from that they do tend to give you quite a lot too. So you know, removing the pests and that kind of thing. So so there you go, guys. Lots of different ideas there for you to consider. And a lot of these trees don't cost that much money. If you buy them in tube stock, they cost about $2.50 from major sort of hardware stores. So it's really not that big a deal when you think about it. And really only takes, like, you know, a year or so for them to get some decent height on these trees, and enough for them to help attract the birds into your garden. So there we go. Lots of good ideas there, guys. Hope you found some of that useful. Thanks for your time and patience. Please don't forget to like, subscribe and share. I'll catch you in my next video.